Thank you so much, Chair. So methane is a planet killer. It is 80 times more destructive than CO2. I've spoken with people in the industry who say it is possible to deal with the leakage. What seems to be lacking right now is industry will. And given the Prime Minister's really strong statements at Paris, COP26, on Canada's commitment, this program seems to me to be a no-brainer. This should be a pretty straightforward thing. And yet, when I look at how the program was set up, they set it up to attract investment and increase competitiveness. And then further down, and deal with greenhouse gas emissions with a focus on methane. How is it that a program that's focused on attracting investment and competitiveness is actually dealing with the climate crisis?
So that's an excellent question, and that's why we wanted the department to look at the full picture rather than taking a myopic view of the equipment being installed at a given site to see what the full effect of the fund was on, for example, continued production or increased production that wouldn't happen in the absence of the fund. This goes to the key point of completeness in the greenhouse gas accounting principles. So without a complete picture, if we look at programs like this in a myopic way, then it perhaps is no surprise that over the last 30 years, the trend in Canada is emissions going up, even though we have individual programs intending to diminish those emissions. So our recommendation is to look at the full picture in creating a program and designing and implementing a program like this, rather than looking at it in too narrow a way. The figures attributed to reductions that have been published by the department are not net emissions figures. And the net emissions figures are what we need to know whether we're meeting our Paris targets.
But you, sorry to interrupt, but you called this a subsidy. I mean, if we're increasing production and we're attracting investment into the oil patch, that's a subsidy, isn't that what the focus of this program is?
Yeah, this fund is a type of subsidy. Agreed.
It is a subsidy. Okay. And then you stated that you were, quote, surprised and disappointed that Natural Resources Canada wasn't tracking whether reductions happened at all. I mean, I used to work for First Nations and arts groups before, and we got piddly little amounts of money that if we didn't deliver, we didn't get the money, and the feds were all over us. And yet we see $134 million given out to oil companies with an objective of helping keeping our planet from being destroyed. And Natural Resources Canada doesn't track if the job was done. How is that possible?
Well, it's something that we hope to see when we carried out the audit were measures and targets related to what's called value for money, or the optimization of resources. And value for money under Treasury Board guidance looks at relevance and performance. There's questions about relevance now because the raison d'etre for the program in terms of depressed commodity prices, that's changed quite considerably since when in the infancy of the program. And then performance in terms of measuring cost per ton, cost per job saved, and so on, that was missing as well. So it was a poorly designed program, there's no doubt.
Well, okay, so it's a subsidy. They're not even checking whether or not we're dealing with methane, which is destroying our planet. You present your report to Natural Resources, and they shrug it off. You say that you were, quote, quite disappointed with the responses of the department. It doesn't bode well. So are you telling us that given such a damning indictment where you say Canada has to stop going from failure to failure, the department's response is to say, you say it doesn't bode well? What does that mean?
Well, they only agreed with 4 of the 6, and they partially agreed with 2 of the 6. And in one of the responses to recommendation 40 for 4.40, they did not seem to even understand the idea of baselining emissions reductions. So there are problems with that. It's also interesting that in recommendation 4.93, they do talk about the need for the program to be based on financial need. And this is a question that you can pose to the department.
Sorry, can I get that clarification? Financial need to who? The oil companies of Canada that this program is worried about their financial needs when we're talking about methane? Is that what the department's focus was?
Well, it's their response that I'm referring to, so
Wow.
I can't
Wow.
speak for them,
No, I know you can't,
but
but a government that has made commitments internationally to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, that the minister's staff and department are saying that their focus was on the financial needs of big oil and not on actually reducing methane. That was their response. I just find that shocking.
well, the point I was trying to make was that they agree with us that you should be basing decisions on financial need, and that goes to the relevance point and value for money. The question that you may want to pose the department is whether that financial need, and I know you disagree with the premise for it overall, but whether the financial need is still present in round three now that the commodity prices rebounded sharply from the onset
$18
of this
billion
program.
dollars in subsidies last year to them, and this government is focused on the financial need of big oil. I'm just shocked by that. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're out of time on